Hello! Today, I've decided to perform like a jester in front of the court. An absolute obtuse challenge for little reason other than because I can. The challenge in question, beating Dark Souls at Soul Level 1 while also doing it no hit. If you've watched videos on this channel before, you know the only way I can get off now is through some masochistic challenge. After taking it to the greats in other Soul Level 1 runs, beating Dark Souls 1 without leveling would be easier than responding to a booty call from your mother. So maybe, just maybe, with the little extra spice of also doing it no hit, I'll finally be happy. Between me and this lofty goal are many resets and many hours down the drain. There are obviously a few rules to this run. First and foremost, don't get hit. Second, don't level up. Amongst a handful of others, full damage does not count as a hit, but dying from the full damage does. Also, no quit outs unless it's immediately after resting on a bonfire or in a few other cases. So, what is the best way to start and get prepared for this kind of run? Well, first, you start by pondering thy orb and allow the arcane knowledge to leach into you from the ley lines that run beneath your very feet. The government is hiding it from you. You only need to ponder thy orb. I mean, shamelessly stealing another player's strats. You should also just boot up the run and scope it out. Low-key smart if you ask me. In this order, and no other order, you must choose a funny name, pick the pyromancer, and grab the master key as your starting gift. Then, strip down to nothing, kill the demon, and escape the asylum. In Firelink Shrine, you make sure to grab the 6 firebombs and 6 homeward bones. From here, you go down through New Londo, run through the Valley of Drakes to grab this soul and the red tearstone ring, an essential for this run. At low health, it is supposed to boost all attack power by 50% because of how the damage is calculated. In some cases, it can give up to an 180% boost to attack power. Then, you go kill the knight by doing this awesome jump and grab the Grasscrest shield. Running up, you loot this corpse with a bow and arrows, kill this lizard for his twinkling titanite, and then hit up Andre for 6 titanite shards and a battle axe, which you then upgrade to +4. Scoop up the Firekeeper's soul, then assimilate the gargoyles with the afterlife. Grab some extra homeward bones from this guy, whose name escapes me, and no, I will not check the wiki. Kick Lutrek off the roof for fat, disassemble Quailag, and sprint through Sen's Fortress to grab the slumbering Dragon Crest ring, another essential for this run. This ring is simple. It stops your fat, chud ass from making sound. Before continuing, you also grab roughly 30 black firebombs, then introduce the Iron Golem to gravity. Now, it's time to sprint through the easiest section of this game, buy 8 Twinkling Titanite and the Weaponsmith box, and shamelessly put down a friend using the Bikey special. As bad as you may feel, you'll need a super big old hammer. This is one of the best weapons you can equip at Soul Level 1 while being super low risk to acquire, and it can be upgraded to max without needing to grab the Ember items. You then put Dumb and Dumber into the dirt, make the sunset on Anor Londo, and place down the Ramen Bowl, which roughly marks the midpoint of this entire run time-wise. Then, you raid the Goons Archives and kill the bitch lizard. Back in Firelink, sprint through the spooky graveyard,
and do a highly specific, mathematically optimized route to drop into the bottom into perfect red tearstone range and take down Pinwheel.
Down in the Tomb of the Giants, Patches will kick you off to one of the most important items in the entire run, the Skull Lantern. Take this back to the asylum and trade it in the nest for the Fog Ring, another essential. The Fog Ring essentially just lowers the range which mobs aggro, which when combined with the slumbering Dragon Crest ring puts you into stealth mode. You're going to use this combo to smack down Nido because the extra mobs in the room will not aggro as long as you don't get close whilst wearing both rings. Now, brutally bludgeon Andre and then commit the average actions of a police officer on duty. Down in the second most frustrating part of this run, you empty out the piss pond from the city and file some lawsuits for false advertising kings. After teleporting back to Firelink, you'll make a second run through Blighttown, donate your hard-earned humanity to a maiden, discharge ceaselessly, and then use the Bikey special one more time. Finally, you fill the ramen bowl, put down Grandpa, and either link the flame or let it burn out. Pretty simple, right? Rounding out this baseline run, I personally took a tiny 73 hits. Not bad for a bird, eh? Importantly though, this run let me set up save states which were essential for practicing splits. In previous challenges that I've done before, namely the Soul Level 1 challenges, is a mix of raw skill with a little bit of luck, meaning I basically did those runs without any practice. I'm pretty good at these games at this point. At the end of the day though, the bosses would have to get lucky every time I walked through the fog gate, because I only had to get lucky once. It also let me think about if there are any other strategies that I can swap for more consistent ones. For example, if you skip grabbing the blooming moss from the blow dart mob in Blighttown, there's quite a substantial reduction in risk of getting hit. But then instead, you have to sit outside of Quaylag's boss room for a couple minutes, which birthed TikTok time.
Something else. How would you feel about...
Besides, I decided I'll only see you again for work.
Do you want to unlock infinite fortune? Pure, untraceable good luck. I happen to know the answer.
Banger. Getting right back into a second attempt where, to be honest, nothing of interest happened. However, I was able to knock down my PB to 44 hits total. So then, it was time for attempt number 3. Closing out attempt number 3, I grasped at a new PB of 15 hits total. Just an absolute masterclass in quickly learning the challenge. And viewers, sometimes when you start doing a challenge like this, right at the beginning, you may just think, what if I do this first try? What if I just smash it out in a couple of sittings? Let me tell you, on attempt 3 with a 15 hit PB, I'd be lying if I said this hadn't crossed my mind. And oh boy, I was wrong. We're in the thick of it now, KSI. There becomes a point in a challenge run like this that booting up another run instead of practicing specific parts doesn't always push the needle closer to completion. For example, if you were to practice by going up through the run all the way to Ornstein and Smo, then repeatedly get beaten with sticks for the next 30 minutes, you would probably get frustrated, tab out, and play Factorio for 20 hours. Obviously, the best way to practice is through individual splits, set up as save states. Why set up red tearstone range and run through the entire kiln just to mistime a parry on Gwyn and die, when instead you can set up a save state on his front porch. And so, I started practicing and implementing new strategies. The first change I made was getting the battle axe to +5 before the gargoyles. By grabbing an extra soul in Firelink, and at the bottom of the elevator in New Londo, by the time you clear out the guard hollows and the big knight, you have enough souls to buy the extra 2 Titanite shards and secure +5. The benefits of this include more swag and the ability to take down each gargoyle in less hits. Second change, using the fire bombs to clear out the passage to the gargoyles more safely. I also learned how to insta-pop the first gargoyle's tail with a firebomb, but I forgot about the lineup and never bothered to figure it out again. I also learned how to do Quelaag properly, practiced the Anna Orlando run through, and punished myself with 20 reps of Ornstein and Smo. In the Goons archives, I learned how to actually consistently do the elevator skip. I also figured out that when you buy black firebombs, you can also grab a single green blossom and pop that right before hitting C, boosting your stamina regeneration just enough to always get the last hit in before he starts swinging. On the way to Pinwheel, if skeletons follow you right to the bottom, or the wagon wheel skeletons aggro, you can stand in this spot whilst wearing the slumbering ring and they'll eventually become Joe Biden. And then, of course, how to beat Gwyn properly. After you hit the initial riposte attack on its first dash, you two-hand the hammer and then hit him in the head. After doing the riposte attack, you walk around behind him. The moment he starts spinning, you roll backwards 3 times and continue walking backwards until he starts moving towards you. The second he does, you walk forward, parry, riposte, rinse and repeat until he croaks. With all this extra experience under my belt, it was time to get back to real runs. And it was in these middle attempts that the schizophrenia really started to set in. You see, when you do a regular playthrough of this game, you may only see one crazy thing, if that, the entire playthrough. But when you're doing many repeat attempts, insane things start to happen. For example, the second gargoyle randomly taking 30 less damage.
Fucking Israeli code injection.
This ghoul gaining a hitbox in its full animation.
Kidding me.
And this painted guardian's hitboxes working as intended.
There's no way. The government has intercepted my game. They're injecting code into my game.
After grinding through attempts, I began to realize one thing. The hardest part of this challenge is the first half of the run. I'd say 75% of my resets total are either at or before Owen Smo. Why? I had a philosophy at this point that if I took more hits than my PB, I'd reset. And before those 2 chuckleheads, there's a lot of spots that have stray hits. The Drakes can hit you with a stray lightning bolt on the ladder. Getting hit by gargoyles means you can't make it back to the boss room without sourcing more firebombs. This lizard in Sen's Fortress is annoying and you have to dodge it twice. Iron Golem is just crazy and Anna Orlando is fried. Eventually, you just have to finish out a few runs regardless of if they are PBs, just to save on mental, which is exactly what I did on attempt 15. Nothing too exciting to talk about, 23 hits total, but it did help with the mental reset I very much needed. And oh boy, did the reset help in attempt 16.
Right, I'll tell you what, you fat little cunt.
Quit your whining. There's no use complaining. Go all out!
その瞬間、現代の悪魔が割り込んできた。幽霊。
A beautiful 10-hit PB. A few sloppy hits on Quelaag and Iron Golem splits, stupid hits on the way to Pinwheel, and a few mess-ups on Gwyn split. And, of course, still some pains with Anna Orlando as a whole. Now, it was time for me to grind down those last 10 hits. Pretty simple, right? it was time for more practice. As the attempts kept rolling in, small things I got away with in earlier runs began to be reoccurring problems. For example, in the first 20 attempts, I was playing very aggressive against Sif and being mostly fine, but now I was regularly getting hit by the dog. With only 10 hits to knock back to get to my ultimate prize, things like this happening became quite frustrating. A little peek behind the beef curtains, I spend about 38 hours a week with your beautiful mother. Loving her is a full-time job that I'll never quit. So, if I was ever going to be able to finish this run, I was going to have to follow a strict gaming routine. My plan was simple. On Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, sneak in some segment practice. This could either be individual traversals or boss fights, or if I was feeling it, just running half the game. Usually, a new run up to taking down Smo and Ornstein would take roughly an hour, and going from them to the end of the game on average took me 50 minutes. On a Friday, I would get some more segment practice done and even sneak in a cheeky run if I was feeling it. Of course, after the obligatory AB. Saturday was the lock-in day. I cleared my decks for up to a month so I could spend Saturdays getting it done. I could get up to 4 attempts on a Saturday depending on how in the zone I was feeling. Of course, this usually wasn't the case and ended up being only 2 runs and a bunch of practice. On Sundays, I could generally sneak in at least 1 run, rest my weary head, wake up on a Monday, ring your mother, rinse and repeat. Only 1.5 days of proper grinding per week. Day-to-day variance and whether I'm running hot or cold would be the deciding factor of a new PB. I'd have to use as many consistent strategies to reduce variance as much as possible, and goddamn consistent I would be. Six hits stood between me and winning. 3 of these hits were absolutely stupid. 1 from walking into a fireball, 1 from not properly clearing the wraiths, and 1 from slipping on a banana peel, I guess. That was embarrassing. 2 of the other hits are from Smornstein and O, and 1 for messing up a parry on Gwyn. I had 1 final addition to my strategies. I'd already passed out 99% of the Anor Londo run through. Painted Guardians? Distracted. The first lot of White Devils? Brutally mocked. However, the second lot on the lower tower was a consistent problem with a simple solution. I present the humble arrow distraction. 6 hits. 6 hits between me and winning.
Getting a no-hit run requires getting into the zone. Many athletes or musicians report getting into the zone where their limbs start moving without prior thinking, perfectly responding as stimulus comes in, whether hitting notes in a solo, perfectly scoring from 3, or dodging a boss's moveset. Getting into the zone improves one's ability tenfold, or at least that's how I put it.
Beautiful. Masterclass. The most scuffed run for the ages, but the challenge was completed nonetheless. So, what next? You know what? I don't know. I'll probably see you all next fiscal year. Oh my fucking god, I'm so glad that's over. Fuck, my chest stinks.